If you're like me and you like to smash the upgrade button for your gear to get it upgraded as fast as possible, then what I'm going to say next might shock you. If you're upgrading your gear, you can actually, in the process of doing so, downgrade it. It sounds like a paradox, but it's real. See, this stat on my amulet is getting worse if I decide to upgrade it. So why is something this weird even happening in the first place? Well, there is a mechanic in the game called item power, which is this little stat on your gear. Item power essentially can indicate the power of your item. Who would have thought, right, with that name? For example, the higher item power your weapon has, the higher the DPS will be. But your item power is represented by these various tiers of brackets. If your item is upgraded and the item power as a result jumps from one bracket to another, then the stats get completely rerolled into a new range of values representative of the new bracket. Obviously, the higher the tier, the higher your stat will generally be. But this rerolling can lead into your stats being worse than the stat with the rolling of the previous bracket. Usually this happens when the roll was pretty high in the previous bracket but relatively low in the new bracket, which is exactly what happened with my amulet. So next time you're upgrading your gear and spamming the button, you might want to check if you're really actually upgrading your gear or if you're just getting scammed. And this is one of the many mistakes that you might make in Diablo 4 that can ruin your gear, damage output, survivability, or just generally waste dozens of hours of your time that I will be going over in this video. Wait, what is happening? Guys, I'm scared. Okay, we're apparently getting hacked by Silver Wolf from the new game Honkai Star Rail. Honkai Star Rail is brought to you by Hoyoverse, the makers of Genshin Impact, and thanks to them for sponsoring today's video. Honkai Star Rail is a cross-platform free-to-play game that features an immersive story and world. It has a turn-based combat mechanism with strategic matching that brings diverse gameplay to the table with dozens of different combat combinations. Combine that with great art design and many characters with amazing attire, detailed and vivid expressions, and their unique flair. So there's a character for everyone. The game has professional cinematography and animation direction that grants players the same level of audio-visual experience as a top-notch animation or TV series. Silver Wolf is a member of the mysterious organization Stellar Hunter, and she has a rebellious spirit and is one of the best hackers in the universe, and those are the only reasons she could hack this video. Nobody can hack my videos. In the game, she can add weaknesses to her enemies and is a powerful support capable of decent damage output. I personally like her because of her unique combat strategy and gameplay qualities. You can't always play with powerful hackers in games, but here it's definitely possible, thankfully. Silver Wolf from Honkai Star Rail is out now. Check the pinned comment and link in my description to download the game and try her out yourself, and be sure to use the promo code on screen for 50 stellar jades. Okay, so back to the video. The next mistake is a big one, but rarely ever mentioned. It is a huge trap to put offensive stats on your chest and pants. These two pieces are the most fundamental pieces in the game to raise your defenses. If you go for things like extra percentages to your damage output on these pieces, it's going to be almost trivial, as these type of stats are always additive and thus pretty much non-significant, especially when compared to all the damage reduction that you can get with your chest and pants. Offensive stats here translate to like a % of extra damage, while defensive stats can really skyrocket your survivability. When saying defensive stats, I'm then specifically talking about stats like total armor, straight damage reduction from close enemies, damage reduction from distant enemies, damage reduction from enemies with a certain condition that is applied by your class specifically, so make sure to keep this in mind when picking your chest and pants. The next mistake might be pretty known by now, but I need to say it once more because making this mistake can have catastrophic results. You can only use an extracted aspect once, so you want to choose wisely what you want to put your aspects on. This means that if you have an aspect with a max roll, like for example this one in my case, you probably want to save it for later in your adventure to put it on perfect or near perfect rolled gear, or until you get the same aspect with another really good roll. If you put it on temporarily gear that you think you will replace soon anyways, well then that means the perfect rolled aspect will also be gone. So make sure to imprint your gear wisely. Which brings me to the next point. Always try to imprint your gear with aspects you've extracted from looted gear instead of aspects from the Codex of Power. The Codex of Power guarantees you that you get a legendary aspect for free essentially by completing a certain dungeon. However, there are two main reasons why you always want to imprint your your gear with extracted aspects from looted gear instead of these Codex of Powers aspects. The first one being that the Codex of Power aspects are always the lowest roll possible, so meaning they are the worst version possible of the aspect you're trying to imprint on your gear. Looted aspects are much better as they are randomly rolled and thus generally will always be higher rolled or even max rolled. But even in the worst case scenario possible, if you're obtaining loot with an aspect that you like but it has the lowest roll possible, so it's the same as in Codex of Power aspect essentially, you still want to prefer the looted aspect over the Codex of Power. And you might think, wait, that sounds kind of weird since they're exactly the same. But look at this. If I imprint my armor piece with the Codex of Power legendary aspect, this is what it will cost me. However, if I imprint my armor piece with exactly the same aspect, but this time the one I got from random loot and accordingly extracted it, which only costs a bit of gold to do so, it will cost much less. Most importantly, a lot less materials. So imprinting your armor with aspects from loot can be a huge gold, materials and time saver. Hell Tides are an extremely important event in the game for making sure you gear up and get stronger. Probably one of the most important ways in the game to do so, especially if you get the tortured gifts of mystery boxes, as these will usually contain a ton of legendary gear and just generally good stuff. They cost 175 cinders to unlock, so they are the most expensive ones in the Hell Tides. But they are by far also the best tortured gifts in this event, and you always, for each event, doesn't matter when or where, 100% want to get all of these. However, these mystery boxes are hidden and they only appear on your map if you get close to them. So you can waste a lot of time trying to search for these chests and in turn maybe not even find them, and as a result also not getting the opportunity to open some of the other non-hidden chests that can also potentially grant you good gear. Essentially it can lead into you tunnel visioning and you wasting a lot of time. Not anymore, however. That is a mistake of the past. Use this site, it's called helltides.com, and no, I'm not sponsored by these guys. This site is so good, I'm just mentioning them out of, free will. And it shows you exactly every single tortured gifts of mystery that is available in the current region where the Hell Tides is taking place. Yes, every single one, and it's usually indicated with a green blip. So you can check the site and then pin the location of the mystery chest as indicated by the site in your own game and then go there in game. And yes, the chest will in fact be there. This is not a scam. Not only is this useful for these mystery chests, it is also great for finding the events that are taking place as indicated with the orange circles, because as you may or may not know, these events give you a ton of cinders quickly to open said chest. And then if there's no Hell Tide at all, the site functions as a timer essentially to indicate when the next Hell Tide will take place. So for those on a very tight schedule, you can exactly know when you'll want to play to do the next Hell Tides event. One more mistake I need to highlight and are not prioritizing getting Forgotten Souls. These are some of the most important resources in the game as they allow you to fully upgrade your legendary gear, so max them out, but also re-roll stats on your gear. Re-rolling stats becomes increasingly more important as you progress and try to fish for that gear piece with the perfect stats. You get these Forgotten Souls from the earlier mentioned tortured gifts of mystery. They are in fact guaranteed drops from these chests, which makes them even more important. But otherwise the only other way to obtain these souls are from the Hell Tide events. And aside from getting it from the mystery gifts, you get it also from killing elites and doing the Hell Tides events. But also be on the lookout for these little things when you're on the move. These are the Screaming Hell Veins, and they are also a good source for giving you Forgotten Souls. What is also a mistake is you not being subscribed to me and not liking this video. So go ahead, subscribe, give the video a like and correct that mistake. Thank you, I appreciate you, let's be friends. Another thing to keep in mind is that your amulet and two-hander gives you a massive bonus to your aspects percentages, damage and any scalable effect really. 50% for the amulet and a whopping 100% bonus for your two-hander. However, the game allows you to put non-scalable effects on your amulets and your two-hander, so you would get zero benefit from the bonuses for said gear pieces. If you put such a non-scalable aspect on either your two-hander or your amulet, it is a huge mistake because obviously you don't benefit from those massive bonuses, and this is something you will always want to avoid at all times. And then when using scalable aspects, obviously make sure to put your best scalable aspects on your amulet and two-handers to get the biggest benefits possible. On the topic of things that the game allows you to do to ruin your own gameplay experience essentially, go to settings and make sure to put both advanced tooltips options on. The information that these provide is absolutely crucial. It essentially tells you how good your your item really is, and when comparing tells you what you will miss out on when you replace it with another piece. The best information, however, that these settings provide to you is showcasing the brackets in which your stats can roll. So you can see if your stat roll is more towards the upper limit or just max rolled and thus it's really nice, or if it's kinda trash and all the way near the lower bracket value. It's a great way to essentially see how happy you should be with the rolls on your gear pieces. A lot of rare pieces can be better than legendary pieces when you find them from random loot in the world, stat-wise, and the only differential is then that the legendary pieces are legendary because they have an aspect. So if you have found a rare gear piece that seems great for your build, but you want to reroll one of its stats to make it even better, make sure to reroll the stat on it before you put an aspect on it. Putting an aspect on it will make it legendary, and with that make rerolling the stats on it infinitely more expensive, so rerolling your stats while your gear piece is still rare will be much cheaper, and is something I highly recommend you to keep in mind. A variety of sources seem to recommend to put rubies on your armor as they increase your max life by a percentage, which on paper sounds like a great deal the first time you hear of it. However, rubies only scale of your base life and not overall life, which means their effect of increasing your total max life becomes pretty trivial and insignificant when compared to much better options. Much better options are gems like topazes and sapphires. For me personally, as a squishy rogue, when I get CC'd is when things get the most dangerous in this game. So topazes are absolutely amazing for my build as they make me tanky when said condition of being crowd controlled is applied to me. However, for example, for other classes that have the ability to fortify themselves, sapphires can be really good as well, as it gives a juicy damage reduction when fortified. And these are just two examples, but both of them will generally be better than rubies. Now the next mistake is a mistake we all do, and you can't deny it, not upgrading your potions, which in turn leads to you healing yourself less than you're actually capable of. There is actually a really easy way to know that you can upgrade your potions even if you forgot about it. Look just at the potion icon in your game. The game will indicate it for you with this arrow near the potion icon when it's time for you to upgrade your potions. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. On the subject of survivability, you cannot ignore Disobedience. Disobedience can be used by all available classes and is an absolutely monster of an aspect. Now what Disobedience does, it increases your armor for 4 seconds with a percentage when you deal any form of damage, stacking all the way up to this number, and it can get very high, like 50% in my case, or if you just get a good roll, get at least a roll with 40% max percentage, I would say. But either way, even if you have like a lower roll, this aspect is in my opinion the best defensive aspect in the game. Two reasons why I find that. One, with how easy it is to get full stacks on it. If your class has AoE damage in any capacity, you can get 100 stacks pretty much instantly. Are you seeing the footage? I even have to slow down my footage to make my point to you, which is exactly why it's so good. But then these 100 stacks add a tremendous amount of damage reduction to you because they provide you a bunch of extra armor, and armor is really good as a stat in this game. Just look at this. Before having any stacks of Disobedience, I have about 50% damage reduction. Then I just quickly get 100 stacks of Disobedience, shoot a bunch of mobs, and look at my damage reduction now. That is an insane increase in damage reduction. So if you ever feel like you're struggling in this game, in terms of surviving obviously, well, make sure you run this aspect on your gear. I always recommend it and it's just too good. Okay, so for the next mistake, I might upset a lot of people, because a lot of people are spamming dungeons to level, which isn't even a bad idea at all when strictly talking about getting XP. However, leveling through nightmare dungeons, or at least doing so for a portion of your high-end leveling experience, is going to be a smarter decision. Reason for this is because you will feel your power falls off in this game, relatively speaking, after like level 80, level 90, when you probably gear-wise will also only start getting marginal increases to your power, and just due to how scaling works in this game. Running nightmare dungeons will not only provide you good XP rates, but also give you the opportunity to level your glyphs from your Paragon board. And for those that think glyphs from your Paragon board, well, that doesn't do anything. No, it is going to be the most significant way of becoming stronger in the end game. These glyphs and leveling them up will actually keep making you feel like you're becoming stronger every time you level them, and at the same time you will also level regularly. So it is a win-win situation, really. Next up, make sure to always pay attention to the innate affixes of your weapons, because they can be very substantial for your damage output. For example, the different types of melee weapons that I can equip as a rogue are swords and daggers. Swords give critical strike damage and daggers give close range damage. Now as a ranged rogue, daggers that provide me close range damage is going to be worse for me, because obviously I'm not a melee build. So in this case, I personally would always want to go for swords for my melee weapons, and then accordingly get relevant stats on the swords, even though I don't use my melee weapons as a ranged rogue. This way I guarantee to have the best possible setup for my melee weapons stat wise. So to generalize what I just said for your specific class, make sure to check out your weapons and the weapons you get for your class, check out their affixes, and see which affix will be the best for your specific build. So that was it. These were a bunch of mistakes that make you weak in Diablo 4, in my opinion. If you agree, let me know in the comments. If you don't agree, let me know in the comments. If you have more, let me know in the comments. Hopefully the video was useful for you in some capacity. If it was, make sure to subscribe as more Diablo 4 content is on the way. Thank you for watching.